Hailie Deegan is on the brink of completely leaving NASCAR, but her new home, with the help of Tony Stewart, could not only benefit her massively, but simultaneously harm NASCAR brutally. While all Deegan has been getting is terrible news in her NASCAR career lately, with many calling her doomed, Deegan now shockingly holds all the power in her hands, with the help of Tony Stewart. But there's a hidden truth behind it, which you definitely wouldn't think of, so stick around with us for the next 8 minutes. We promise we won't waste your time. First, a very brief recap. Hailie Deegan came into NASCAR as this huge talent that had the potential to become the next big female figure, that would present herself as a role model for all the women out there who are thinking that they do not have a chance of making it in NASCAR. But truth be told, we're only seeing flashes from her promising talent. And right now it seems like we're going to be extremely disappointed with how her career actually ends. Hailie's initial talent saw a bit of a crackdown in her last season in the ARCA series and in her first season in the Truck Championship. But after her transfer to Thor Racing, a team that produced 2 champions in the past, many have hailed her to be the next great thing in NASCAR. Still, with just one top 10 finish, 6th at Texas Motor Speedway, and in 13 races has 8 finishes of 20th or worse, only goes to show that she is not nearly what we projected her to be. And her latest crash against Lawless Alan has scorched an avalanche of reactions from the fans, because she did admit that it was her fault for crashing behind him, but there was nothing much she could do in this situation. That didn't sit well with Alan, who has taken an extra step in insulting Deegan, and went on to add, I don't think there's much to say. She's talentless, and just sailed it off in there and wrecked me. It's lap, 3? And she's sailing it in there. I just don't understand what that move was all about. It's not the first time she's wrecked me. She does it to effing everyone, so it is what it is. The damage that Alan suffered on his truck at lap 5 forced him to retire just 2 laps later, and it is quite understandable to see where his anger is coming from. But one thing remains to be answered right now. Is Deegan's place in the sport, or should she just back off, as she is definitely cracking down under pressure? Obviously, it will always be difficult to prove to the world what cloth you're made of once you come from a minority group, in this case, females in NASCAR. As we already know, this is a sport that is mostly dominated by men, and the constant pressure of having to perform at their level is piling up on her shoulders with every race passing by. However, it may have reached a point of no return. Furthermore, Danica Patrick was one of the most controversial figures in NASCAR as well, as she did manage to get a lot of attention on her back just by the fact that she was a female driver. Nonetheless, the fans have labeled Deegan to be even worse than Danica, and that is a compliment that will definitely take a further toll on her performance in NASCAR. When it comes to crashing, Deegan is one of the leaders in the Truck Series, and this in and of itself is enough for Thor Racing to consider replacing her with another figure. Obviously, it won't be easy because there will always be the question of whether or not she is treated the way she is due to the fact that she's a female driver. But nonetheless, if the performance isn't there, then there isn't too much to be talked about. One of her latest straws to catch upon would be the SRX series, the ones that are gathering massive attention right now and are hosted by one of the most influential figures in the NASCAR world, Tony Stewart. If Deegan manages to perform well there, under the ESPN lights, then rest assured that the narrative around her career will change. But as of now, none of us are seeing that happening. After all, you don't just become a great driver out of nowhere, and having multiple bad races, or more precisely, bad seasons in a row, does tend to take a toll on your ability to drive in NASCAR. Fans have went absolutely ballistic by adding mean comments about Hailie, with many of them calling the rest of the NASCAR world to pull the plug on the young Thor Racing driver. As they wrote, "She isn't going to make it. Hope she would, but she's getting worse every race. I'll be surprised if she has a full-time ride in any series next season. Move on." These are words that you can easily interpret one way or another, but if you let them get into your head, something I'll bet Hailie is sitting at home and reading right now could definitely have an impact on her performance later down the road. Well, I certainly do not agree that she should be treated the way she is right now, with all of the mean comments towards her. A little reality check wouldn't hurt anybody. And you cannot just play the female card whenever something isn't going your way and say, "I'm sorry, I lost control." What's even more troublesome for her is that if the championship caliber team, Thor Racing, decides to cut ties with Hailie Deegan, then rest assured that not many teams out there would want to have something with her as their starting driver. But what goes in her favor is that she has always been defended by the majority of the fans out there, especially when Alan said those mean words towards Deegan. One fan wrote, "Okay, Mr. 0 wins, 0 top 10s," contributing to the fact that Alan does not have the back and resume to talk bad about other drivers performing the way they are, just because he is on the brink of being considered one of the most underperforming drivers on the grid. And are all crashes her fault? For example, during the WWT Raceway earlier this month, we've seen that Deegan has been crashed by Nick Sanchez, and this is something that Nick himself spoke about and apologized to the Thor Racing driver, pointing out towards one hypocrisy. When it's someone else not named Deegan crashing other drivers, then it's totally cool, but when Deegan does it, then she doesn't deserve to be a part of the sport? When talking about the incident with Deegan, Alex went on to say, "It's unfortunate to tear up a truck, especially her, just racing hard, trying to get momentum. Pushed her back bumper off turn 2 and 3, just trying to get clear of the two on my inside, just racing so close, I hit her. No two ways around it. Unfortunate, sucks that it happened, my apologies." This is one of the best and most sincere answers you could potentially receive from a NASCAR driver, and it actually doesn't get any better than this. But even with all of the statements made by Alan, Deegan's father has blamed the hypocrisy and the entire series for not penalizing drivers like Alex for doing exactly what he did against his daughter. When talking about this matter, Brian Deegan, the father of Hailie, went on to add, "Had a good day going till we got junked. Truck series is a joke. What a bitch. Yeah, that's right. He knew what he was doing and shouldn't get away with it. I am so over seeing these clowns take you out. Something needs to happen. And NASCAR needs to pull their head out and use the black flag to protect drivers and equipment." One way or another, it's usually Deegan the driver that is taking out other drivers, and this is a scenario that has been happening for quite some time in the sport. That is why there couldn't be any mistreatments in the case of Deegan, as right now she is standing on the brink of extinction, and there is a massive chance that we are seeing the last of her. With the fans being separated in terms of whether or not they are giving her another go, the majority of the fans are voting towards the fact that Deegan's place is not in the sport, and we have seen enough from her. What goes heavily against her favor is that she is driving for one of the best teams in the Truck Series, and the fact in and of itself just goes to show how heavily she has underperformed as a driver in the NASCAR world. With all of this information in mind, Deegan needs to prepare herself for what comes next, a period of strong showing from her side, or face the consequences of not being able to understand how to properly perform in the Truck Series. Do you think that her place is in NASCAR, or we should indeed pull the plug on Deegan? Let us know in the comments below.